Hi, I'm Hobie1. This is Red Chair Reading. Today I'm reading the Black Book of Secrets by F.E. Higgins. Chapter 34. Let's go. Departure. Jeremiah Ratchet was gripped by intense glee. He longed to skip, but the icy road permitted only a short-stepped, cautious haste. So instead, he punched the air with his fist and let out an audible ha-ha into the night. He was distinctly pleased with himself. He had guessed quite rightly that the Black Book was the key. To possess it, now almost made up for his earlier humiliation at the hands of Horatio and the turkey. And, of course, if it hadn't been for that altercation, he would never have found out exactly what was in the book. After he had gone home with the turkey, he had watched the crowd, and Joe and Ludlow, from his window. He had heard it all, every single word. What fools they were, those villagers, to trust their secrets to Joe Zabadow. And that was when he had come up with his plan, to pretend to wish to pawn his own secret so he could get his hands on the book. When he eavesdropped outside the pickled trout, that had been just the icing on the cake. How stupid Joe had been to send the blackmail letter. He had burned all of his bridges in the village, and at the same time, he had done Jeremiah a great favor. By the time the villagers had gotten rid of Joe, it would be too late. Jeremiah would have the Black Book, and he would use it to regain his rightful position of power in Pagus Parvis. If he was honest with himself, in his heart of hearts, Jeremiah had never thought it would be so easy to take possession of the Black Book of Secrets. But then, who would have thought Joe would surrender it rather than lose his precious frog? Jeremiah was fit to burst with self-congratulations. As quietly as the delight would allow, he hurried himself inside, unaware that he had omitted to shut the door fully. He was also unaware of the small figure that crept in after him and followed him to the study. This stealthy intruder curled up in the darkest corner and watched and waited. The full moon shone in dusty beams through the window. They lit up the clock on the mantel to show 3:15. Jeremiah threw off his coat and dropped it. He pulled off his hat and tossed it aside. With every step he took, snow fell off his boots and melted on the rug, leaving dark stains. He held up the prize in triumph, the red ribbon trailing from between its pages. "I'll show them," he laughed, waving it in the air. "They'll all pay for their treachery." Jeremiah took himself over to the dying fire and eased himself into one of his very expensive leather chairs. He glanced at the cover of the book, but couldn't understand it, so he flung it open and laid it flat on his lap. He licked the tip of his stubby forefinger and turned the pages with obvious relish, slowly at first and then more quickly. He tittered, he giggled, tee-hee-hee-hee. He took the Lord's name in vain more than once, stopping every so often to rub his hands together. He did not in glee, however, but to soothe his burning palms. Saluki's bite, if that's what she had done, was proving to be nearly as irritating as her owner. "My fortune is made," gloated Jeremiah. "There are secrets in this book I couldn't even have guessed, and not just from Pagus Parvis, from all over. As for Dr. Molderd, my, who would have thought it?" With great satisfaction, he snapped the book shut, and a single page fluttered to the floor at his feet. Breathing hard by now, he leaned forward to retrieve it and held it up to the light. Its ragged edge suggested that it had been recently torn from another book. It showed a colorful picture, hand-painted with some skill. If this is interesting to you, please be sure to boop the like button. You'll help the video spread to other people. Thank you very much. "Frogs?" snorted Jeremiah disdainfully and glanced curiously at the caption. Seconds later, he fell back into the chair and let out a tremendous groan. "What has he done?" he moaned. "The lanky, fork-tongued devil! He has duped me!" His hands throbbed and burned. His movements were slowing. A creeping numbness spread up his arms and throughout his body. His chest tightened. His throat swelled. It was becoming difficult to breathe. But he watched, unable even to express surprise, as the boy emerged from the half-light and came forward. Who's there?" Jeremiah stuttered loosely. The boy didn't answer, just stared at the dying man before bending down to pick up the book from the floor. "Who has done this to you?" whispered the intruder. Jeremiah's lips moved and silently formed a single word. The boy shook his head and left. Well, that's the end of Chapter 34. Thank you for joining me. Catch me again for Chapter 35. Bye.